So where did this idea to specifically focus on the Rebbe come from?
I think you need, with any film, just a strong central character. I think Chabad is, for people not in the community, or even for Jews, is still a bit too, it's not enough to grab onto. And I think non-Jews, actually, and secular Jews, still can't differentiate between Satmar and the Turei Karta and Hasid, they don't know, or Lithuanian. So I think him and his story just gives an amazing through line from the Holocaust to the present. And then also people see his image around the city and are very curious. People ask me all the time because they know I'm a journalist and I'm Jewish, and they say, "Who is that guy?" So I think it's like when people will watch, if they see that on the poster on Netflix, I think they will click on it to learn more, is my calculation. So Rabbi Friedman, to give you some more context, I'm a filmmaker, made many films. I started my career embedding with neo-Nazis for 4 years. Wow. I would live with them and travel around the US. I went to Russia with them, France, Belgium. Made a film on my grandmother who survived the Shoah from Poland. Film did so well, we were invited to meet Kamala Harris, the vice president at the time. I brought that to schools all over the country, Ramaz and law firms, etc. And now we're thinking about Schneerson because what a great figure of history who's never had his story told in such a big mainstream way. And I also am, I come from journalism and a student of history, and everyone assumes in my world, in Brooklyn, that the path is towards secularism. But if you look at maps, the religious world is growing and Chabad is growing. So all my work is always tries to be very open-minded and ask why. So I guess to bring it back to Schneerson, just one more question there, what was his defining insight? What did the Hasidic Jews were decimated by the Holocaust, is my understanding. How was he able to regrow? What did he see? What did it mean to come from that moment, a near collapse to where you guys are now?
Which is one of the most impressive things coming out of the Holocaust and launching a project to fix the world. While the rest of the Jewish world was recovering and feeling very victimized, the Rebbe was saying in the 50s, let's fix the world. We don't like it the way it is. This is not the way it's meant to be. Let's fix it. And he was talking to a handful of survivors. Who's going to fix the world? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But as the Rebbe once said, from the time he was a toddler, he had these images of a perfected world. How do you go from a Holocaust to fix the world? You're the victims. Sit quietly, behave yourself, or you'll get in trouble. that was a big, you get us in trouble. And the Rebbe said, what? Fix the world. Whatever needs fixing in the world. Why aren't we doing it? Growing up here in Crown Heights as a teenager, I saw the two sides. The crying and the misery and the mourning and the grief but on Eastern Parkway, they were dancing in the streets. I said, what is this? And hearing the Rebbe say, let's change the world. I mean, for a teenager, like, you got me.
It's inspiring.
Oh, yeah. Teenagers are very idealistic. And to hear the Rebbe say, oh, fix the world. Irresistible. So that itself, just the attitude, the confidence, the chutzpah. You're the victims of the world. No, we're not. We're the fixers of the world. I mean, that's a man who was not affected somebody saw the Rebbe on television. He told me about it, and he says, I was just surfing, and all of a sudden there he was and I just sat there and cried. I said, why'd you cry? It was a farbrengen. It was a happy occasion. He says, I just never saw a Jew so comfortable with his identity. It just made him cry. This is not a survivor. This is not an immigrant. This is somebody who's, you can't argue with that. No, don't be so confident. Don't be so optimistic. It was really irresistible. So the Rebbe raised an entire generation of young people with one thought: what can I do to fix the world?
I'll get into specifics with Yoni later because I want to be cognizant of your time. But my one last big question is, he passes in the 90s. Chabad is effectively leaderless, right? Or there's a council of rep. Anyway, help me understand what happens from then to now. How have things changed? What is the future? How does the community continue to grow and expand without this heavyweight around?
It's a very good question, because all the experts, I don't know what makes an expert, but all the experts said without the Rebbe, it'll collapse. It's over. Everyone. In fact, what happened was, after the Rebbe passed away, Chabad quadrupled. Literally. The number of Chabad houses, people today, just last week, a couple went out someplace in California, they never saw the Rebbe. They never saw the Rebbe.
Wow.
And yet, you're supposed to go out and fix the world. How is this happening? The Rebbe gave us a very big compliment before he passed away. He said, I've done everything I'm supposed to do, and the only thing left for me to do is to give it over to you. Big compliment. What he meant to say was, you got the message, you know what you need to do, you can do it. So he did plan ahead. He did see the future. He created the future by educating us and planting it in us, and so that why would it stop without him? If what he was saying was true, and if what he was saying is good, and if what he was saying is inspiring, why would it stop? So people, the experts, misunderstood this whole thing. The Rebbe implanted it in us. He cultivated it in us. Where young people can't imagine living a life for themselves. Does not compute. What? Am I going to go through work every day and pay my bills? What? No. That's not a life. Life means serving and fixing the world for which we were created. Why would it stop? So the key ingredient that the experts were missing is the truth. Like, for example, the Rebbe said to his followers, every Jew in the world wants to be a better Jew. You don't believe me? Buy a one-way ticket to a community where you're the only chassid, you're the only Shomer Shabbos, you're only observing. There's no kosher food, there's no mikveh, there's no synagogue. Go there and see what you can do. In other words, don't take my word for it. I'm telling you, every Jew wants to be a better Jew. Stop a guy in the street and ask him to put on film. Because he wants to. So, is that true? Well, now we know. Yes. Yeah, it's true. So if it's true, why would it depend on one individual? So in a sense, the Rebbe modeled this idea. It's not about me. And Chassidim picked that up. It's not about me. We are created with a mission, and life is all about the mission. Otherwise, it's not a life. Who needs this? That is an amazing, psychologically, that is a revolution in human nature. It wasn't so long ago, people were debating, can a human being actually do something selfless? And most people said no. Everything has a selfish motivation. And the Rebbe said, what are you talking about? That's not true. Everything has a selfless motivation, and we corrupt it. That's true. So, for example, this boy went off to yeshiva in France, in the 60s. He arrives there, he goes into the office, and he says to the dean of the yeshiva, I need to call my mother. Which phone should I use? And the dean said, you need? He said, yeah, I need to call my mother. He said, you need? In Yiddish. And the boy said, my mother needs me to call her. Which phone can I use? And the dean said, better. Stop lying your whole life. It changed this kid. He became an adult overnight. A teenage boy in Paris doesn't need to call his mother.
Yeah.
His mother is sitting by the phone waiting for an hour to hear that he arrived safely. So what the dean was saying is, your mother needs you to call, and you call it your need? Why do you do that? What, is it embarrassing to say that your mother needs something? That you're doing it for her? Grow up. I think all of life is like that. I need a job. I don't need a job. I don't even know why I'm here. But God created the world in such a way that by the sweat of your brow you make bread. I don't know why. If I was God, I wouldn't. Crazy idea. Only the human being has to get food in the most roundabout, torturous way. Every animal wakes up, looks around, and eats something. May have to chase it a little bit, but no, the human being has to go to school, has to go to high school, has to go to college, has to get a job, has to make money, has to have a bank account. Now he can make a sandwich. I mean, it's ridiculous. So I need this, I don't need this. But my Creator needs this of me. So anytime I say I need, I'm lying. Why can't I tell the truth? It is so liberating. And that's what the Rebbe not only told us, he modeled it, he cultivated it, he guided it until everyone in his yeshiva got it. I don't need this, you can't threaten me. But what I'm needed for, you can't stop me.
Well, thank you. There were so many things I could ask, but this was plenty for now to get started. And we're going to start developing a story, and I'll be in touch with Yoni, and we're hoping to look back at the history of this movement and all of the amazing material you mentioned that he'd have to bring in and be filmed. And I've seen some of the archive of Schneerson. Even Steven Spielberg's mother visited him, Netanyahu, so many people over the years. But then we also want to find a way to look forward. So we're going to dig into what's happening in the community now and who the different, emerging leaders are and things like that. So we're open to also, go ahead.
So where did this idea to specifically focus on the Rebbe come from?
I think you need, with any film, just a strong central character. I think Chabad is, for people not in the community, or even for Jews, is still a bit too, it's not enough to grab onto. And I think non-Jews, actually, and secular Jews, still can't differentiate between Satmar and the Turei Karta and they don't know, or the Lithuanian. So I think him and his story just gives an amazing through line from the Holocaust to the present. And then also people see his image around the city and are very curious. People ask me all the time because they know I'm a journalist and I'm Jewish, and they say, "Who is that guy?" So I think it's like when people will watch, if they see that on the poster on Netflix, I think they will click on it to learn more. Is my calculation. Yeah.
And growing up, what was your curious, like, sort of your background, like, Jewish wise, like?
My father's from Israel and grew up kind of Likud, fought in the '73 war. My mother is very secular, never did anything, maybe had a Seder every few years. I grew up conservative, had a bar mitzvah, would go to Israel to visit my father's family. I wouldn't say I'm practicing, but I really connect, and I've actually come to 770 quite a few times. I may have even bumped into you there before.
Yeah, we met there. You came to my in-law's house and we made Kiddush.
Yeah.
You had a friend with you.
Yes, you remember.
Yeah, that's how.
We met actually because there was a fight at 770, and this is crazy, Yoni, you grabbed me and you said, "Come over, get out of here." There was like a fist fight, and then I came over to your house. But yeah, it's fast. I've been back many more times, and my father is friends in the community, and it's a story that in my world has not been told. So.
And you think Netflix will go for such a niche?
It's not necessarily Netflix. There are other options, but it's possible. Yeah, there's people are really fascinated by this community, and they don't know anything. They really don't know anything. Like at just a baseline level, people think you guys are the ones in South Williamsburg. Like I always have to explain that's a different community. People like even that baseline people don't know. So yeah.
You remember seeing the New York Times Sunday magazine?
Sure.
With the Rebbe on the cover?
Oh, no.
Oh,
I should read
the
that.
Oracle of Brooklyn.
There you go. When was it? A long time ago?
Oh,
Early 90s?
Yeah.
90s? So...
Was he interviewed?
No.
Okay.
I wasn't, right? There was no interview with the
I
Rebbe.
don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is another amazing thing. How do you become a world leader without becoming a celebrity?
Sure. And he would not visit the world leaders. The world leaders would visit him, which is, I can't think of anyone else where a foreign prime minister is coming to visit. Maybe a business CEO or something, seeking funding, but that wasn't what it was. They wanted spiritual wisdom.
So Begin's statement about the Rebbe when he came to visit?
What did he say?
He said he was on his way to meeting with President... Who was it?
I don't know.
Probably Reagan at the time.
One of those.
Probably Reagan.
One of those presidents.
Yeah, it's the 80s.
And he said, I stopped here to get the blessings of this because he carries the responsibility for the Jewish people more than I do.
Mm.
It's a big statement.
Yeah.
Any advice, like, that you would give Daniel, sort of from
Well,
a
look,
Chabad
Israel
point of
is
view?
very much in the news now, right?
Sure.
You've heard of Israel, right?
Never heard of it.
And that itself is also miraculous. Why is all the attention on Israel?
Yeah.
A tiny, insignificant little country. Nobody cares about Ukraine. Nobody cares about Israel. What is Israel doing?
Yeah.
That needs to be explained because it's... How much influence the Rebbe had on Israel? How many times the Rebbe saved Israel from disaster? That is a big part of the picture.
It's hard for me not to ask a question now. I know some of the Hasidic groups say they're non-Zionist or anti-Zionist. Did the Rebbe ever say he was what was his stance?
Anti-Zionist.
Anti-Zionist.
Pro-Jews.
Interesting. Wow. Okay.
Your philosophy, Zionism, Judaism, Reformism, nothing. Disaster. But Jews, wherever they are, whatever they are. But I think talking to Elkanah would be a good idea.
Yeah, that's what I want to ask when we're done, is who you recommend we speak to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That could be the feature.
Well, this would be, if it
centerpiece.
happens, would be a year-long project. You know, we would get a budget and either, you know, film on and off. It wouldn't be nonstop. A day here, a day there for a long period of time. Then you're in the edit for 6 months or a year. So it could be a film, it could be a series, 3-part series.
So you got to get people that predict.
We would get a lot of voices, including you, if you'd be open.
No, it would be very interesting. It'll come out a year from now.
More,
Or maybe two,
and
right?
a half, yeah.
It'll be a different world by then.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to hear what people were saying 2 years earlier
Yeah.
about the future of the world, the future of Chabad, the future of...
Yeah.
And it'll be all positive.
I think so.
But here's the underlying foundation for the whole thing is this idea: we were created to serve, not to be served. Whatever you're going to hear about the Rebbe, it's always going to come back to that.
The phone call with his mother in France made it land for me. I understand. It's not that you need to call your mother; it's that your mother needs to hear from you. That makes a lot of sense to me. Now I feel bad when I say I have to call my mom. She doesn't hear from me. Wow.
There's a story in the Gemara where a sage was riding down the road, and on the side of the road he saw a guy who was exceedingly ugly. So he stopped and he said, "You're exceedingly ugly." And the man said, "Complain to my maker." And he wasn't as ugly. Because for the first time in his life, he admitted to having a creator. So the ugliness was his arrogance and his selfishness. Whenever we find a fault in ourselves, we always blame the creator. But when we find the virtue in ourselves, that's me. By the Rebbe, everything is complain to the maker. Even the Holocaust. And people would say, why was there a Holocaust? Complain to the maker.
My grandmother became non-religious because of the Holocaust. She said, if there's a God, why would he have let that happen?
Good. And the thing that everyone said, I'm not God's lawyer. Complain to him.
Yeah.
So complaining to God, that's a Jewish thing to do.
I love that. Yeah.
The Rebbe was a true original in everything. Everything. People say, "Oh, so find somebody to replace him." Yeah, sure.
Well, that's the quest of the film. Good.
One question I have is, obviously, looking for people within Chabad to speak to. I found that the tendency, we're not necessarily like this, but the tendency is to be very guarded. And
Of course.
we don't know what they're going to say and how they're going to spin it, and always a little trepidation because we don't know what the final cut is going to look like.
Of course.
So I was just wondering, that's definitely could be a hurdle. Any thoughts about how to approach that?
Well, I could say, just looking at my previous work, I think if there's any filmmaker positioned to do this, it's me, and my work a bit, but I did this show a film that is very beautiful and sensitive, and Rebecca's sister is Haredi. even when I made the film about the white nationalists, the neo-Nazis, they all felt very respected by the process because I let people speak. Like the whole idea is to capture people accurately. So there's totally a world where someone who is non-religious, maybe non-Jewish, watches the movie and says, wow, that community is crazy, whatever. But there's also another world where so many people's eyes are open because you guys are allowed to speak openly for the first time and reach new audiences. So that's the idea.
But you're right. There are a lot of people who are going to be, who have what to say, but they're hesitant. I think...
I've seen cameras in 770, though. Like, people
film. Oh, yeah, we're the most open community in the world.
Yeah.
But nobody wants to go on record.
Got it.
Because if they twist my words, I think twist it all you want, and the Rebbe is going to come out looking good.
I'm sure.
You can't ruin it. You can't ruin it. Because no matter what you say, you show his picture and everybody's in love with him.
I'm interested. My grandmother's a survivor. Like, you know, he rebuilt this community. There's so much. Also, cinematically, there's 80 years of archive. I mean, there's so much amazing archive. There's a million reasons why it's interesting to both of us.
Do you remember when you first had the idea to make a documentary?
Years ago, I said to you, has anyone done it? And I think you said no at the time. But then I went to the New Yorker. It was before I was there. And I couldn't have gotten a project through like that there. It would have been... And now I'm independent and we run this small studio. So, and we have the relationships to make it happen. So it will take, just to manage expectations, it'll be another couple months of kind of talking to people. Then we shoot what's called a sizzle. It's just like a little trailer. And then we bring that to funders and try to get it commissioned.
And growing up with like being a grandchild of survivors in the Holocaust, is that playing a little bit to like, you know, the desire to make this about Judaism and how Judaism is still flourishing? Like,
I think actually, to put it a little more earnestly even, depictions of Hasidic communities are typically negative, which is a shame. It really disappoints me when I see that in mainstream papers, and I won't name them. I've had Uber drivers drive me through, usually not Crown Heights, but South Williamsburg, and make derogatory statements. And I think a film like this could really humanize a community and explore its power. Like, there's a reason it's growing. There's a reason it's growing, and my job is to meet people there and to be growing in the wake of the largest genocide in history, you know, that this man was able to come from that and do so much. So that really does interest me in a sincere way.
Have you visited Chabad houses around the world?
Yeah, I used to go at McGill where I was a student. I was just in Brazil with my girlfriend. I was thinking when you mentioned that they go to this place and no one's there. We're on this tiny island. It was a flight, a boat, and then like a little buggy car. And then we saw Chabad Rabbi on this tiny island called Morro de Sao Paulo, because there are some Israelis who pass. I've been many times. I've been in other countries, and I used to go in D.C. Shem Tov, forget his name. The son, not the father.
Maybe.
Yeah. But the father was around, and now his sons were taking over, and then I'm sure you've been. Yeah.
So there are two people you can be very interesting: Netanyahu and Milei.
Oh, Milei, sure. Milei is interesting. Yeah, he came here recently.
Yeah, more than once.
Argentina's president.
And he was just at a party celebrating Gimel Tammuz. He just walked in, like, you know.
He's converting to Judaism, and he came to 770 recently. Yeah.
Be interesting to interview Netanyahu.
Well, he never speaks to anyone, but we'll try.
Ask him, are you Chabad? How much influence did the Rebbe have on him?
Did he? I didn't know that.
Oh!
Wow. Because Likud, his party, is secular, technically.
Yeah, he is secular. But there was something between him and the Rebbe.
Right now.
That would be absolutely fascinating. Because it's so current.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you doing this? How do you wake up in the morning?
I think he's got a, yeah.
You have a radio show now. And
That's
also, one last part, in the Rebbe's early years, like, the Rebbe went to Chabad University, and are you going to focus at all? Or?
Well, we're just getting started developing it, but it would be, especially if it's a 3-part series, it would be from it's from Poland, right? From where he was born to the present, and beyond. It would be kind of an epic, I guess, is the way to think of it. A big story, a lot of archive. Could we take a picture of us? Do you mind just coming in?
I think maybe you want to put on tefillin and take a picture.
Sure, but get one first without, just so I have,
Yeah,
or you have. No, but
I'll get. Oh, I should come.
Can you come? Yeah, I just want to take a picture with the three of us.